Sega.
Hi, my name is Quinn Duffy. I'm the game director on Company of Heroes 2, the Western Front Armies here at Relic Entertainment. We're going to give you a brief intro to the game, talk about how it differs from other strategy games you might have played, and show you how the new Oberkommando West Army is unique. The Oberkommando are designed to reflect the German army of late 1944. Resurgent, on the offensive, built around battle-hardened infantry and massively powerful tanks. At the same time, they were facing the challenge of economic collapse. In the US Forces video, I talk a bit about a couple of key differences between the Company of Heroes franchise and other strategy games. Tactical maneuvering, cover, and range-based combat are very important, but there are a couple of other parts of that tactical gameplay we'll cover here, namely flanking and facing. Flanking is a near necessity, and you especially want to try to get around behind armored vehicles where their armor is thinner. You can also flank cover. Because cover is directional, getting side shots or getting behind the enemy negates any protection they were getting and allows you to kill their infantry more effectively. Facing is another important element in Company of Heroes 2. A machine gun or anti-tank gun is effective, but only if it's facing the right way. These kinds of units can be very powerful, but you need to consider their placement. We also draw on history for a lot of our gameplay, so you'll find that rifles can really do nothing to a heavily armored vehicle. A rifle is a terrible counter to a tank, but an anti-tank rocket launcher is pretty decent. We call this the counter system, so you need to know what your enemy is doing and have the resources to build the counters to their unit choices. Speaking of resources, let's also take a second to talk about the economy of Company of Heroes 2 compared to other strategy games. There are no workers in the game, no mines to mine or trees to harvest. You earn resources by capturing territories on the map. You can check the mini-map or the points on the battlefield to see what resources are granted. Resources fulfill different roles and follow a general theme or context. Manpower is required for all units. You're going to need fuel to really tech up to the bigger units, which makes sense because tanks burn a lot of fuel. Munitions are generally what you spend for weapons or abilities like throwing grenades. In some game modes, like Victory Point, you have to hold a majority of the VPs on the map, so don't lose sight of that goal. You can win a lot of battles, but still lose the war. Now, overall, the Oberkommando West don't get as many resources as the other armies because of Germany's worsening economic situation in 1944, but they capture territory exactly the same way. If you don't have much of the map captured in the first couple of minutes, you're going to start falling behind, so territorial expansion is critical. Use your infantry to capture territories on the map to increase your income and deny the enemy his or her income. Pushing your front lines out gets you into combat with your enemy, and this is where you need to take stock of your situation. In the US Forces video, we cover some of the questions you need to ask yourself from a tactical standpoint, but another thing to pay attention to is what the enemy is building. You'll often get audio cues for what your enemy is doing. If you start hearing or seeing vehicles all of a sudden, consider making that transition to anti-tank weaponry. The Oberkommando have lots of options. You can equip your infantry with Panzerschrecks. You have small team weapons like the Raketenwerfer, which can fire from inside buildings. And you can go all the way up to heavy vehicles like the Jagdpanzer IV. On the other hand, if you see lots of infantry, it might indicate your enemy isn't ready for a vehicle, so you can dictate the strategic arc of the game by teching up. Catch his infantry with artillery, or vehicles like the 251 Flak half-tracks, or Panzer II Luke's light tanks. Their 20mm cannons can chew through enemy troops. Either way, you have to see what kinds of options you can afford, and that leads us back to resources. So what do you spend your resources on? Just like the other armies, to get bigger and more powerful weapons and units, you need to build buildings. The Oberkommando differ in that they have a very flexible building system. Their SWS half-tracks can be converted into structures that can produce units. You'll get one of these half-tracks at the beginning of the game, and once you've converted it into a structure, or one is destroyed, you'll get a new one automatically. Each of the three structures does something cool apart from building units. One allows you to transfer resources and repair vehicles. One can reinforce and heal infantry. And one is heavily armed with a 3.7 centimeter flat cannon. As a player, you can put these buildings into any territory you own, so experiment with strategies around placing your structures on the map. Where do you want to repair your tanks? What about retreating your troops? And where do you want some extra firepower? You can create some nice defensive zones, and in team games you can use your buildings to support your friends as well. Now here's a great way to interact with your structures. You see the tabs across the top of the HUD? Every army has them, and they all link to their tech buildings and allow you to build units and set rally points for your troops without having to leave the front lines. Definitely try to use the tabs. Overall, the Oberkommando are a very potent force, but you need to be aggressive to get the really big guns out and start tearing into your enemy. Experiment with using your base buildings effectively and learn the maps. Your lighter vehicles can help keep back enemy infantry while you keep your troops alive so they can earn their 5 levels of veterancy and become really scary. And when you get one of the big tanks out, don't waste it. If you leave it alone out there, it's going to get hit with everything the other armies have. Company of Heroes 2 is like all strategy games in that you get equal parts challenge and reward. There's a lot to learn, but an incredible amount of content to play with and to master. One of the best resources you have is our community. They're engaged and knowledgeable, so please visit our forums or community sites and watch games on Twitch TV or YouTube to really pick up the nuances of the game. We'll see you on the battlefield. Hi, my name is Quinn Duffy. I'm the game director of Company of Heroes 2, the Western Front Armies, here at Relic Entertainment, and we're going to give you a brief introduction to the game, how it differs from other strategy games, and how the new U.S. Forces Army plays. I'd say there are a few key gameplay features new players to Company of Heroes 2 should be aware of, even if they have experience within the strategy genre. Tactical play is one key difference, and the other is how you build your army through the economy. What do I mean by tactical play? It's about using cover, maneuvering, and facing your troops, and dealing with range combat. We'll cover a couple of points in this video, and the others when we talk about the new Oberkommando West Army. These tactical features hold true for every army, not just the new ones. First off, you should try to use cover to help keep your troops alive. Pretty much anything in the world will give you cover, so get cover between your troops and your enemy. The combat system is also built around lethality at range. For example, rifles do effective damage at long range, whereas submachine guns, as you'd expect, are more effective up close, but really inaccurate against long-range targets. Even the big guns on tanks are less effective at long range. In our game, you want to assert control by capturing resource and victory points. You want the map to be mostly blue, meaning you're getting more munitions and fuel than your opponents. Along with munitions and fuel, manpower is the third resource, and everybody starts with the same value. As your army gets larger, the manpower rate goes down. If you lose a large part of your army, the rate goes back up to help you rebuild. In COH2, it's not over till it's over, so keep fighting because games can turn around in spectacular ways. Let's talk a bit about one of our new armies. The US Forces play style is all about mobility and versatility. They are adaptable and can meet a variety of threats by getting their flexible firepower quickly to key areas of the battlefield. US Forces are unique in their starting setup. All the buildings you need in your base already exist, but they're locked. You can click around and see where different units are built, but know that generally more powerful units take more resources and arrive later in the game. Around the perimeter, you see bunkers for defense and something called weapon racks. These are where your infantry can pick up weapon upgrades like light machine guns or bazookas. Just select an infantry unit, click on the weapon racks, it'll deduct the munitions, and voila, versatile firepower. Your barracks can build rear echelon troops and riflemen, as well as an ambulance. Start with infantry because you want those guys out there capturing the map as quickly as you can. One squad is handy, but 2 squads can capture 2 points at once, and 3 squads can quickly capture most of the map. But don't let them get too spread out. Don't go all in on infantry. At some point your enemy will build vehicles, and you need a bit of diversity and versatility in your army to be ready. You get that by teching up, or building more powerful units. Other armies accomplish this by building new base buildings, but the US unlocks their tech through their officers. Each of the other 3 buildings is unlocked by officers of successively higher ranks, lieutenants, captains, and majors, and they give you access to different unit types. Remember, you don't need to spend resources on all 3 buildings. Either the platoon command or company command will give you access to the battalion command where the big tanks are. Don't spend resources unnecessarily on stuff that you don't need. More potent units can bring more firepower to bear against your opponents, and when you hit the front lines, the real fun starts. When you see that first bit of combat, you need to take a quick look at what's going on and make a few key decisions. Am I outnumbered? Are my guys in cover? What weapons am I facing? Do I have troops nearby that I can use to flank or get behind my enemy? Is it time to fall back or fight it out? You rarely lose the game if you need to retreat your troops, but you can really set yourself back if you lose too many too early. Keeping your units alive means that you can reinforce, and squads that stay alive longer become veterans and are much tougher. In a typical battle, you're going to look for that tactical advantage over your opponent, but you have to keep an eye or ear out for what the enemy is doing. Watch the minimap and listen to audio cues from your troops or from the game. Keep scouting because your troops will let you know what they run into. So what happens if you run into a tank? We'll cover that a bit more in the Oberkommando West video. In any case, a potent army tends to be built of several roles. An artillery unit, an anti-tank unit, and an anti-infantry unit will give you versatility to cover almost all tactical encounters. US riflemen are pretty adaptable in that they can be equipped with grenades, bazookas, and light machine guns to essentially cover those roles all by themselves. The US forces have a lot of decent jack-of-all-trades units. The M15A1 AA half-track is good versus infantry, but can also tackle other light vehicles. and the M4A3 Sherman is decent versus infantry and can fire armor-piercing rounds at tanks. That's really part of the versatility and mobility built into the US forces. Strategy games like Company of Heroes 2 are incredibly rewarding and really offer years of play. If you're new to the genre, I'll suggest some pointers. I'd say first off, keep busy. Multitasking is important. Know what your units are generally capable of doing, learn the counter system, and experiment with building an effective force. Start against the AI and work your way up, and focus on the little victories at first. And finally, talk to our community. Visit forums, Twitch TV, or YouTube to watch the game, learn from others, and experience how the depth unfolds. We'll see you on the battlefield.
Your pioneers are experts at building structures and defenses. Soviet forces are supported by their combat engineers. In addition, some infantry squads can also build defenses and other structures. Pioneers and combat engineers can repair buildings, vehicles, and bridges. Build menus can be found on the command panel of the unit. There are two types: production buildings and field defenses. Production buildings will be able to order in the soldiers and vehicles that comprise your army. Field defenses prevent the enemy from moving freely around the battlefield. Order your pioneers to build a structure from the list. Not all areas of the map will support the construction of a building. While the building is selected, if you want to cancel the order, simply right-click anywhere and it will cancel the selection. To confirm the order, simply left-click on a valid territory, and the squad will move to begin construction. Certain structures, like bunkers, must be faced to cover key objectives. These buildings will show you their direction of facing. Face it in the direction you want with a mouse and left-click again to confirm. You can cancel a structure under construction at any time by selecting the Cancel Construction button in the command panel. When a building is completed, it will also activate a selection tab above the command card. You can select buildings from this location from anywhere and order units, set rally points, or see what is currently in the queue waiting to be deployed. When you require additional military forces, select from the appropriate base structure and select the forces you wish to deploy. When they arrive on the battlefield, units will move to the building they were deployed from unless a rally point is set. Rally points can be set for units by selecting the rally point option from the building, or by selecting the building and right-clicking on the map. Each building can have a unique rally location. Units will arrive as close and as quickly as they can to the set rally point. You can cancel a unit deployment by left-clicking on the portrait of the unit in the production queue. There are 3 resources on the battlefield in Company of Heroes 2: manpower, munitions, and fuel. Bigger armies take more manpower to field. Smaller armies take less manpower. As your army gets larger, your manpower rate slows due to upkeep. If you lose large numbers of forces, your manpower rate increases. In order to increase the amount of munitions and fuel you earn, you must seize the initiative and capture strategic points on the battlefield. Moving infantry squads within the white capture zone of the territory will start the capture. You cannot capture a territory with enemy squads nearby. You must remain vigilant and ensure the territory is connected to your base. If the territory is not connected, then the territory will flash on the minimap. By constructing fuel and munitions caches on your territory points, you can increase your resource rates even further and force the enemy to destroy the cache before they can capture the territory. Use your pioneers to build caches and watch for Soviet combat engineers attempting the same thing. Your forces and your enemy can perform a large number of actions on the battlefield, from throwing grenades to dropping barrages of artillery on concentrations of enemy forces. Many of these abilities necessitate certain prerequisites, such as a munitions cost to activate, or that a specific building be constructed. The ability itself will make clear its requirements. There are also a variety of ability types. Some abilities require you to set a target, while others are timed. Toggled abilities give you the option of ordering the unit into one of two states. Abilities like this grenade attack are triggered by activating the ability and targeting a unit or an area. All timed abilities have an active duration, and when the duration of the ability runs out, the ability is deactivated and begins a recharge. Toggle abilities are triggered by activating and deactivating the ability. Team weapons are capable of inflicting very high levels of damage on infantry and armored vehicles. Weapons like heavy machine guns, mortars and anti-tank guns need a crew to operate and can only attack enemy units that are within their arc of fire. If your team weapon is under fire and at risk of being destroyed, you could retreat, but note that anti-tank guns are so large that they cannot retreat at all. When a team weapon crew withdraws or is killed, the weapon is dropped on the field. The weapon can then be recrewed by an infantry squad by right-clicking on the weapon. The Soviets can maintain their weapon teams at full fighting strength by merging conscripts with a team weapon squad, as losses are taken. This makes them durable fighting units. Heavy machine guns and aircraft strafing runs can suppress and pin troops, preventing them from advancing. These weapons include the German MG-42 and the Soviet Maxim heavy machine guns. When suppressed, the squad will go to a prone position to minimize their profile. They will be protected, reasonably but not for long. If your squads are no longer under fire, the suppressed troops will eventually come out of suppression and be ready for full combat. Also, it is very important to note that suppressed squads make it far easier for other squads nearby to be suppressed. Machine guns can cover large areas, so keep your squads reasonably spread out. A single machine gun can suppress many infantry squads. If you allow your suppressed squads to stay suppressed for too long, they will become pinned. Pinned squads will not be able to move, fire, or capture points. But unless you can respond quickly, either by... A smart commander knows two key factors about the battlefield. They must know the effect of range and movement on combat. And they must know how to utilize strong mixes of units to create effective tactical forces. Weapons are less accurate at long ranges, but long-range weapons like rifles still have an advantage over short-range weapons like submachine guns. Closing the combat range will increase the rate of fire and accuracy of infantry weapons, making close-ranged combat more lethal. Submachine guns excel at close-range combat. However, you have to be careful when closing ground on the enemy. Combined arms is about finding versatile sets of weapons that work well in attack or defense against a variety of threats. Combined arms tactics are usually built around 2 to 3 different types of anti-infantry or anti-tank weapons. Mixing a heavy machine gun and a mortar is an effective tactic. The machine gun can suppress the infantry, and the mortars, which typically have a difficult time hitting moving units, can easily target the suppressed infantry. Now add an anti-tank gun to the mix for a very powerful force. The machine gun can protect the mortar and the anti-tank gun from infantry, while the anti-tank gun can engage armored vehicles. The Soviets are learning from us. Their powerful mortars and heavy armor give them a strong base for potent combined arms forces. For your infantry, cover can often mean the difference between victory or death. Almost every object you encounter on the battlefield will provide some level of protection for your troops. There are many types of cover on the battlefield. Most cover your infantry will encounter early in the game is directional cover. You must keep cover between yourself and your enemy. Craters, on the other hand, protect your troops from any direction. Secondly, different cover types have different levels of durability and protection. A stone wall offers better protection than a wooden fence. When you have a squad selected, the mouse cursor will indicate the quality and distribution of cover on the battlefield. Light cover is represented by a yellow shield. Heavy cover is represented by a green shield. When you find your enemies in cover, you should fall back on simple military training. Use weapons like grenades or other explosives to dislodge your opponent or flank them. Units in cover have defensive bonuses and are difficult to attack from the front. Flanking the position and getting into close range will negate the cover bonus and even the odds. Use your infantry's ability to vault to find new flanking routes, or take shortcuts for faster flanking attacks. Flanking is also a great tactic to use against enemy armor, where you can get shots on the lighter, side and rear armor. Always look for opportunities to flank the enemy, and always try to protect your flanks. You will undoubtedly hear a lot of F words on the battlefield, but the most important one is flank. Battlefield knowledge is vital to tactical success, but no commander has a perfectly clear picture of the battle space or what their enemies are doing. Your units cannot see everywhere at once, nor can they see behind objects that you would expect to block their line of sight. In Company of Heroes 2, all objects on the battlefield taller than a soldier affect line of sight. Notice how your forces cannot see behind this building. This true sight system can be used tactically against the enemy to set up ambushes. Line of sight is dynamic. Burning vehicles and smoke can obscure your force's ability to see, whereas destroying large buildings or blowing holes in walls will allow your units to see into previously blocked areas. Our soldiers faced temperatures below -40 on their drive to Moscow, and few human beings can operate effectively in those temperatures. Unless you prepare for the arrival of General Winter, your soldiers will suffer for your failures and die of exposure. In the open, your troops will suffer from the effects of cold. They will slow down and eventually die. Watch your troops for their current state. A blue thermometer indicates freezing. A red indicates warming. You can protect your troops more fully by garrisoning buildings, moving your troops in half-track personnel carriers, or by building fires with your pioneers. The Soviets will likely attempt the same. Even the Russians don't enjoy -40, regardless of what they say. But it gets better or worse perhaps. Blizzards and strong winds can increase your exposure, causing your troops to freeze faster. Certain abilities like airstrikes will be unavailable in blizzards, so you might take advantage of the bad weather to seize ground. Just be sure when you are attacking that you pay attention to ice you encounter. Ice can be damaged by the passage of your tanks and vehicles and destroyed by heavy weapons, such as mortars, anti-tank guns and artillery, sending unlucky units to a hypothermic death. Watch for deep snow around the battlefield. Cross it if you must, but be aware that it will slow your troops. Even vehicles will find their movement somewhat slowed by deep snow, although not to the extent of infantry. Finally, both infantry and vehicles will leave tracks in deep snow that will be visible to other combatants.
Something built? You need something? We're going. Destination confirmed. Right, we'll get there. Let's get going, comrades. Combat engineers are standing by. Something built? Good. We have more conscripts at our disposal. Move out. Fresh conscripts have arrived. Moving to location. You need something demolished? T-34 ready for combat. We have more conscripts conscripts at our disposal.
Keep that start. T-34 moving.
Soldier, check your gear. We are moving.
T-34 moving out.
There are no cowards here. Securing. We have it. Vodka when we are done, comrade? I think Petrov pulled his groin, but it is done. And then they are bags of gold, comrades. That took too long, comrades. Next time we must be faster. Departing. Engineer standing by.
Conscripts ready for assignment. Su-85 tank destroyer ready.
Your orders, comrade. Moving out.
Yes, comrade. We move!
Fresh conscripts have arrived.
Here we go.
You need something built? We are on the way.
Ready for orders. Su-85 moving.
Comrades, we have now installed a field hospital at headquarters. Conscripts can now attack tanks with AT grenades. Conscripts, now you can use Molotovs to burn those bastards.
Conscripts here. Da, tovarish. We are moving.
You need something demolished? We're off.
Rifle on the march.
We have more conscripts at our disposal.
Forward. March. Da, tovar. We will get there.
Engineer standing by. Move. Engineers move out. Engineers on the way. Let's get going, comrades.
AT gun is ready for combat. Mortar team reports ready for combat.
AT gun here. On the move. Do you need something? Crew, we're moving. Yes, comrade? Get moving.
Heavy machine gun team prepared for combat.
Machine gun ready. Moving. Move orders received. Mortar crew ready. Get ready to move. Mortar moving. Mortar ready for orders.
There are no cowards here. It is time to march, comrades. Taking it is one thing. Holding it is another.
need something demolished? This is our sector now.
Conscripts here! Protection is always welcome. Soldiers ready. Sandbag wall in progress.
Engineer standing by.
Now that is how you stack sandbags, comrades.
Destination confirmed.
Soldiers ready. We are away.
You need something built? Build us a munitions depot, brothers. It will lead us to victory. Munitions depot complete, comrade. We're off. Comrades, we must reinforce with a munitions depot here. Munitions depot ready. Build us a fuel depot. We need the resources. Structure complete. Construct a fuel depot for the Soviet people.
No more Red Army soldiers are available. Combat engineers are standing by.
This fuel depot needs something demolished. We're going. Engineer standing by. We will have it up. It's done. Engineers on the way. Flamethrowers have been requisitioned. I cannot wait. Flamethrowers are coming, comrades. Now we will show those fascist bastards. You need something built? Flamethrowers have been requisitioned. I cannot wait.
Your orders, comrade.
Flamethrowers are here. I love playing with fire. You need something demolished? Go.
Red Army, at your service. I would rather be shooting at the enemy. Sandbags are up. Forward, back is out.
Engineers ready. Right, we'll get there. Engineers move out.
Waiting for your... On our way.
Engineers standing by. Yes, comrade. We are on the way. Go. Move.
Conscripts here. Understood.
Good work, comrades. This now belongs to us.
Get fucked around like this. Soldiers ready. Take it. Under 18 gun attack! We cannot stay here!
Our duty is clear.
D-34. D-34 on the move. Relocating Su-85. D-34 ready for action. Crew, we are attacking. Tank destroyer here. Su-85 fire on the armor.
We are suffering interrupted.
Okay. It's closer than I'd like.
Have you ever seen a general walking? There are no cowards! It is time to march, comrades. Riflemen ready. Securing the objective.
We have a new Su-85 to deploy.
Assault gun ready for action. Move to that position. Well done, comrades. The point is ours.
Red Army, at your service. Get those bags filled and stacked. That was not so hard, comrades. Your orders, comrade. Get off your ass and set up some sandbags. Would you rather be digging graves, Dimitri? Conscripts here. It will be ours. Da, tovarish. We will take it for the Soviet people. The hard part will be keeping it.
The enemy is reduced to 200 points.
Pile up some sandbags. Put your back into it. This now belongs to the people and workers of the Soviet Union. Protection is always welcome. Construction is complete.
You need engineers?
It is finished. Da, tovarish. Moving to location.
Combat engineers. Destination confirmed.
Waiting for your command. Get those bags filled and stacked.
You have orders for us? Ready for orders.
Who needs engineers?
85 millimeter on target.
Soviet backs?
Another kill. Scout
been lost in the defense of the Rodina.